Hello, I'm Danielle Smith with the Alberta Enterprise Institute. We're collaborating with Common Sense Edmonton to interview candidates for the upcoming civic election and for Edmonton City Council. And joining me now is the candidate for what is Ward 2, but it also has a new name. And Ali Haymour is going to tell us what that is. Ali, thank you so much for being with us today.
Hi, thank you for having me, and thanks for getting involved in the future of Edmonton.
Oh, my pleasure. So we are now transitioning to new names for the ward. So tell us what the name of your ward is.
The new name of our ward is Anirniq, and what it means is a fresh of breath air. And I think we do need a new fresh of breath air in this ward. One of the things I'm running on is making Ward 2 a priority ward. And because we've been neglected here for such a long time. LRT expansions, when it comes to sidewalks and back alley pavements, recreation centers, these are things that, other parts of the city are getting it and we're not getting that. So I promise to be vocal and try to fight for some of the stuff that other parts of the city are getting.
That's great. Tell us a little bit about what you do in your private life so that we have some understanding of why you think you would make a good council member.
In my private life, my hobbies are, sports. I watch a lot of sports and stuff like that. And I get involved in politics. I keep engaged and watch the news. And watching the news has motivated me to run. When I see things like the cost overruns, the wasteful spending, for example, the Edmonton Northwest Campus Police Station, $90 million over budget. $800 million over budget on the LRT. We've got also $600 million of consultant fees. These are things like, outrageous. It's got to stop. And there's got to be more responsibility and accountability.
All right. Let me ask you, what do you do for work? I'm trying to draw a connection between the type of work that you do and how that will lend itself to being a council member overseeing the administration.
Well, I'm an Alberta sheriff. I've been there for about 18 years. Law enforcement, when it comes to crime in our city, Edmonton is has a really bad reputation for high crime nationally. And one of my goals is to reduce crime by 70%. I know that's a high goal in 4 years, and I would like to come on your program in a year's time and say, hey, we've reduced crime by 20% without increasing the police budget. And I'm going to say why. Okay, we need a lot of restructuring. And for example, in law enforcement today, Edmonton Police Service is a very professional police service. In Edmonton, we have the resources, but we're not using them effectively and efficiently. So for example, peace officers, ETS security, Alberta sheriffs, bylaw officers, fish and wildlife. We've got everybody in a uniform with no power. It's time to empower them. On a policeman's scale, a policeman gives tickets all the way to murder cases. This part of the scale where there's B&Es, robberies, murders, has grown dramatically in our city. So to empower peace officers to help out our sheriffs is to relieve police officers from this part of the scale and throw them on this part of the scale to respond to more serious crimes. Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
I totally do. Can I get you to elaborate a bit more on that too? Because in the last year, we've seen a movement calling itself Defund the Police. And I'm wondering if that group, what that means to you, first of all, and if that is factored into any of the restructuring that you would propose for the police service.
Yeah, sure. I'll just finish this point off where I believe we have to work together, all agencies. For example, when it comes to court access orders and stuff like that, for a policeman to go and sit and in a parking lot so some guy can go into the house and grab his belongings because there's a threat there and whatnot. I don't think you need a full-fledged police officer to do that. And Alberta sheriffs can do that. In fact, I believe that's under the sheriff's jurisdiction. So I would be working well with the provincial solicitor general and saying, maybe we can take some of the stuff off the plate of the police, and then you guys can carry some of this stuff. Like, the Alberta sheriffs can do stuff. Peace officers can help direct traffic control and stuff like that. And let police do more of the serious crimes. I can see
where you're going, because if you allowed for that kind of division of labor, you'd have different pay scales. And so you'd be able to have more effective law enforcement, maybe more law enforcement, but it shouldn't impact the budget. Is that where you're going?
Yeah. It just empowering more. Like you got, for me, I've been in the workforce for such a long time that I know I've seen the people before me who are wearing white shirts with a grade 11 education sitting behind the desk, and the people that are coming in with PhDs, master degrees and undergraduate degrees. Empower them to do more. They want it. They welcome it. They
Totally
say,
get it. Totally get it. But
sure.
I want to understand how this other piece fits in, because there was a notion of taking a portion of the police budget, not for the things that you're talking about, but for social services. And do you support that?
Not at all. I disagree with it. We have a professional police force, and when we have a process in place, if anybody wants to make a complaint, there's a process in place to make that complaint. If there are officers that are abusing that authority, yes, we hold them accountable, of course, and maybe we can review that process, and say, okay, well, how can we make this more effective, more efficient? We can get down to the nitty gritty. How look at the discipline kind of procedures that they have. We can look at that. But to defund police or take away their authority, no way. At the same time, in saying all what I'm saying, there are people who call the race card. I've been an officer for a while, and I've had it happen to me. Oh, you're just a racist. What? I'm brown. Like, what do you mean I'm a racist? You committed this crime, or you're doing this wrongdoing, and I have to question you on that. I'm not doing it because I'm not a racist by any means. I'm doing my job. And so I would call the people out on who is ever playing the race card. And at the same time, if there's people abusing their authority that the city gave to them, we also have to hold them accountable to that. So,
all right. I want to keep
it's common sense, for God's sakes, people. That's
since you have so much expertise in this area, I had one more policing question. I think I'll ask it now rather than save it for later. The issue of law enforcement for the new speed limits. They reduced the residential speed limits down to 40 kilometers per hour, and some people were asking for it to be reduced to 30 kilometers per hour. What's your thought on it?
No, Edmonton has become a zone where it's very difficult to drive. You have 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, like every so many meters, you don't know what zone you're in. And, with photo radar, which I'm trying to abolish, is, because I believe that they're abusing that. And that when you have those speed limits, we want to catch the guy who's going 100 in a 50, dangerous driving kind of thing. Not a guy who's coming off of a 60 zone into a 50 zone, and then you have a photo radar camera there waiting to zap him. He's not paying attention, or he didn't use enough time to reduce the speed. That's not who we want. We want the people who are dangerous driving. And I think what the solution to that is more boots on the ground. And that goes back to what I was saying, empowering peace officers to help out the police to do more crime. There's a lot of things that we have to do with policing. I know you're touching on that. Honestly, if I can sit here all day, I can talk to you about
I know, that's why I want to get to some of the other issues, but I know it's such an area of expertise that I wanted to make sure that you had everything out that you wanted to say on it. Can I move on to another topic, or is there one more thing you wanted to add?
I'll end it with this, with Edmonton, with the police force, in this diverse community that we live in, and it's growing. Maybe we do have to look at our training process, our recruiting process. Who are we recruiting on board? And look for elements of racism or bigotry or stuff like that. At the same time, have proper training with diverse communities, and just let's hope for the best with our officers, that we could all get along well and be professional, and that's how I would like to see it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you talked also a lot about the issue of spending. So I want to get into some of those capital projects as well as operational spending. But tell me first about City Hall. What do you think is the core business of the city?
Is to provide core services, for example, water treatment and snow removal and stuff like that. Also budget very well, business licenses, promote the city in every means, right? So, for example, one of my vision is to make Edmonton the prosperity zone of Alberta. The business hub, if you will. How do I do that? How do I make it into that? I got to look at what the licensing, the permits, the taxes, and find a way to attract new business and sustain the businesses that we have, and that would all create jobs. I always give the example of West Edmonton Mall back in the 80s. Late 70s, early 80s. They came to city council and they said, we had a vision. We would like to build this big mall with an amusement park and so on. And but we need some help. And city council did what they had to do. They gave them a little bit of a tax break and they built that mall. Well, 50 years later, we've got people all over the world coming to Edmonton to see that mall and ask how many jobs that's created. A lot of jobs. And that's how city council has to run. It's got to support business, not stifle it.
So let's talk a bit. You talk about licensing, permits, potential for tax breaks. Other cities have used dollars to do business attraction by giving direct subsidies. Do you favor that kind of approach?
Yeah.
You do? Okay.
Yeah.
Let me ask you about oil and gas as well, because that has been the source of a lot of great paying jobs in the capital region for a long time. Do you still think that oil and gas is going to be able to provide those jobs in the future?
I do. I would like to see get away from pipelines and build our refinery right here in Alberta. Like, and I know I've heard the arguments that you know how much a refinery costs and all that other stuff. It's time that we keep the oil here, our jobs here, keep the money in Alberta. It's time to take a different approach with other provinces in our country and work well with the federal government. We've got a product that you can have. Why out in the East are you still buying your oil from Saudi Arabia? I don't get that. Okay, back in the 1940s, maybe it was cheaper back then. But now let's get back to the table. Let's work together. Let's work as a country, as Canadians. And I think that's Alberta has to come out on that approach instead of the approach that we're taking now. Like for some reason, we're just coming out as, oh, you know, we're going to do this. If you don't like this, we're going to, you know, it's like in your face approach kind of thing, despite of, you know, because of party politics and whatnot. I think we have to look for what's the best interest for all of Canadians and especially Albertans.
All right.
And Edmontonians.
So you talked a bit about taxes and in particular giving tax breaks as a way of business attraction. Generally speaking, what do you think of taxes in the city? First, let's talk about business taxes. Or what are you hearing from business owners? Are they too high, too low, about right? Do they feel like they're getting value for money?
Extremely high. Extremely high. And I don't have the numbers in front of me. I'm sorry. I didn't know we were going to go down this route. But from my understanding in general, and from what I just read earlier, is that business taxes are equal to what property taxes are. You know, so there's there's a big disproportion there. And so business taxes are paying just as much. I think it's 49%. And I'm not sure on that. Please don't quote me on that. But they pay that much up into the city budget. And it's, you know, with the struggles of business today, we do need to overlook that again and see how we can support business. If you drive around Edmonton alone, you'll see for-lease signs everywhere. It's not in our interest to keep those signs, you know, places. We have to fill those places up.
Right.
So we got to find out what the problem is. And taxes is the problem, one of the problems. Permits, licensing is another problem. How is it, and this is from somebody on the doorstep, he said to me that, you know, how is it here in Edmonton? And I forgot what license he told me, but he was applying for a license and it was something to do with business. And he said it takes 6 weeks. Why is it in Sherwood Park? It's only 15 minutes. And I understand we're a bigger city, but it shouldn't take that long. Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
I sure do. Yeah, I hear that a lot.
You know, and my brother is a good example. He wanted to open up a barbershop here in Edmonton. Yeah. And he looked and he looked and he looked. You know where he ended up going? Sherwood Park. You know, he just says taxes are cheaper there. Rental prices are less expensive. So he went over to Sherwood Park and opened one there. We can't have that happening. We got to bring business over here. Sorry, go ahead.
So, no, thank you for that. So let me just switch gears and ask about what you're hearing about residential property taxes. Are people feeling like they're getting value for money, or are they also thinking taxes are too high? What are they telling you?
Way too high, really high. You know, especially with the value of their houses. Like they're saying, you know, in the last, decade, 10 years, my taxes have gone up about 25%. My wages have not gone up that much. You know, so they're complaining about taxes and tax increases, and we pay high taxes. We used to show off at one time here in Edmonton compared to St. Albert. We used to say we paid lower taxes here, and St. Albert pays high taxes. Now I think we're almost at par with St. Albert and stuff like that. They have better services and stuff like that, but Edmonton has really high tax break. On top of that, I also want to add, and I'm hoping to announce this soon. I'm still looking and doing some research on it. But I would love to see senior citizens 65 and over permanent property tax freeze. There, and then my reasoning behind that is simple. They've paid taxes all their lives. They're on a fixed income. The increments that they get doesn't even cover insurance and gas prices and food increases and stuff like that. And I don't expect them to go get another job at that age. You know what I mean? Just to pay this city council's taxes, right? So I would love to see them have that financial peace of mind, knowing that, okay, my taxes are not going to increase on me next year, right? But I ran into some people saying, well, what about the rich people, the rich senior citizens? Do they get that break too? So, I mean, we got to do our homework, find out, do we find a tax bracket, and then say these people are eligible if they make this much money. I don't know yet, Danielle, but that's something me and my team are looking at. And
All right.
Very soon.
Well, we'll watch your website to see if you manage to hammer out the details on that. Thanks for letting us know that you're looking at it. So here's the issue, is that if you're concerned about taxes, you either want to freeze them or reduce them, then you've got to do something on the spending side. So give me your sense of when you look at the spending, it has gone up in excess of inflation and population growth over the past 20 years, 36% higher, we calculate. What do you think should be done to keep the spending in line?
You know how I was talking about the police and how we can restructure and work with resources, we can do things without increasing, and we can service Edmontonians better. We have to do that in every department with transit and stuff like that. One of the biggest things that we have is too much mid-management. We have to look at the layers and layers and layers of managers. And you recall what I was saying about empowering frontline workers to do more. Well, if we can eliminate some of the mid-management that we have and use that money to hire more frontline workers and service Edmontonians better. And that's part of the restructuring that we have to do.
Right.
Without raising taxes. So with the money that we have, it's all about restructuring the way we do things. And and I promise as a politician and a counselor, if I do make it, I'm going to get off my chair and go talk to the frontline workers. They have the answers to where the problems are and how to fix them. And I would also meet with the head managers that are at the top and find out, what solutions are. But I believe that we need to look at the problem as a whole, find a good way to do it, and involve everybody, the frontline workers, managers, and everybody, and go and try to fix the spending problem that we have at City Hall.
So talk to me a bit about whether you see a collective bargaining problem with frontline workers, because we sometimes see multi-year contracts and then the economy doesn't necessarily match what's in those contracts. You've got automatic pay increases as people move up the pay grid. Is there anything that you think needs to be done there, or are you satisfied with the way collective bargaining works right now?
I think you need to involve them more than like unions and collective bargaining. You just want to bargain in good faith. Basically, you got two teams meeting together. The government's, we have a budget. And you have to understand that. The workers say, well, we have a living expense. And we have to understand that. Now, can we compromise? Let's look for win-win situations, right? And we have to work with them and invite them to the table on all the committees. So, for example, I talked to the Edmonton Transit Union, and there are many things that are happening right now, many committees and decisions where they're not even involved in. Well, why not? They should be at the table. And we should respect that. And I think they have a lot to contribute. They have a lot of information and input that we can use to make better decisions. So
right.
It's all about respecting one another, I think, and cooperating and working nice.
Let me then ask one more question on wages. What about councillor salaries and pensions, transition allowances? Do you think they're reasonable?
You know what? I'm going to be honest with you. I don't even know how much they make. I'm not in this for the money. I swear to you. I am not.
You'd be surprised. There's a lot of people who said the same thing.
I don't even know what the pension is. I don't know how much they make or anything like that. I'm running for the right, just to help, to serve, to fix the problem. I grew up on the belief, if you see a problem, become part of the solution, and that's all I'm trying to do. is become part of the solution.
So you've already mentioned some of the capital overruns that you found frustrating. The Valley Line Southeast has also suffered significant delays and multiple delays during construction. What's your understanding of the reason for some of those delays? And do you think there's anything that can be done to prevent them on similar types of projects?
Yeah, the mismanagement that they have, and the layers and layers of government and the decisions that you have to make. For example, for something small, they have to go through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 layers of government managers to get approval. And when someone at the front line can make that yes or no answer, right? So that's why I'm saying that we have to get rid of all this stuff, restructure, and make things more effective and more efficient. Where did I read it? And why is it in China they built a hospital something like in 6 days or something? I can't remember reading that. I don't know if you heard about that.
I think that was during COVID. It was I don't know if it was as fast as 6 days, but pretty darn close to that.
You know what I'm saying? It was like, yeah, I can't remember, but I mean, why are they they can do it that fast? And for us here, for some reason, we dwell on the smallest little details. We can't do that anymore. It's a costly thing. Enough is enough. Let's go. Let's use common sense. And that's what I want to bring to City Hall. Common sense and financial control.
All right. Let me ask you a little bit more about the future LRT extensions, because we've got Valley Line West, Metro Line Northwest, Capital Line South. Do you support further LRT expansion, or do you think that there's a better way to meet the city's public transportation needs?
I'm going to talk about my ward because that's where what I hear on the doorstep, and I'm representing the people. There's a lot of people who don't support it, and if they do, they want to see it go underground or over, right? Not hinder traffic. And the plans for a LRT in the extension to our ward was made 20, 30 years ago, and I don't know if you're familiar with Grease Spa or not. It's supposed to come down Castle Downs Road. The area. Well, that area since then has been developed. There's been houses and a population increase and stuff like that, and traffic increase. So I would love to revisit some sort of traffic study and population study before you put that there and you go with those old plans, right? Because I don't think it's going to work anymore. I really don't. One of the areas that you're probably familiar with is the Royal Alex Hospital, the Kingsway area. People are waiting like 16 minutes at a time to get across there, from what I heard from a lot of from my ward, right? And it's right next to a hospital, for God's sakes. Picture someone coming down in an ambulance coming down with someone having a heart attack, and then the arms of the LRT coming down, ding, 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 and they're stuck in traffic. That's the only hospital we have on Edmonton North. You know what I mean? That's unacceptable. Meanwhile, what we saw out in Mill Woods area, and he must be a good counselor. I don't even know who he is, but he had in an industrial area, his LRT extension goes above the street, right? So, and it's really after an industrial area after 6 o'clock, it's not that busy, but it doesn't hinder traffic or delay traffic. Whereas here at Kingsway, the core of the city, right? We should have either went underground or over on top, because that's a very sensitive area when it comes to traffic.
All right.
I'll keep this in mind. I don't know if you're familiar with the old airport. It's called the Blanche.
I was just going to ask you about it. So tell me what you're going to say, and then I'll piggyback another question on top of that.
Because I'm a long-term thinker. I don't think just for the moment. Thinking long-term, when that thing is developed, and they're going to have so many people, I don't know how many thousands of people are going to be in there, but can you imagine the increase of traffic going down that Kingsway Avenue and that LRT system, that's in place right now? It's going to be a fiasco when it comes to traffic. So I don't think people were thinking long-term. I think they were just it was a Band-Aid solution. They just wanted to get it done because of the arena, because of the election at the time. And I find that unacceptable. Do things right. Don't do things, in a speedy way. All
right. Well, let's then talk a little bit more about Blatchford, because the city is being its own developer in approaching those lands. Do you think that that's the right approach, or do you think it should be done differently?
Well, the way I look at Blanchford, it should be done differently, because that approach is not working. I've got an economical development right in my own ward, I can put plumbers to work. I could put electricians to work. I could put, developers to work. Let's get to work. Let's get this done. What's holding us up, right? So obviously, what you're saying, it's not working. We got to look at other ways to speed up the process and get those houses built and stuff.
All right. Let me ask you, because you've already alluded to this about how you feel like Anirniq as a ward has been neglected, and there's this concept of 15-minute communities. I'm interested, when you look at the neighborhoods in your ward, what are some of the amenities that are missing? What do you think? What would be your priority?
Some of the in my area in Edmonton Northwest, one of the things we'd like to see is a big recreation center that Clareview has, the South Side has, and now approved on the west end of Edmonton. We have the YMCA, really good place, but it's always full. It's overloaded, right? You go there to go swimming, it's full. Programs are full. Great place, but I would love to see a recreation center like the Clareview Recreation Center here in my own ward. It's beneficial to everybody. It reduces crime, keeps kids busy and healthy, right? And we're creating leaders. One personal story of mine is that I remember I was coming down the YMCA and kids were playing floor hockey. The instructor comes in and shuts the lights and says, it's done. It was 9:00 on a Friday night. The kids were about the age of 17, 18. 9:00 on a Friday night playing floor hockey, and you shut the lights. Oh my God, they're off the streets, keeping healthy. What a good place to have it in, right? So that's how important it is to have recreation centers, I believe. And it's a place to go socialize and stuff like that. So yeah, I find
all right. Yeah. That's a good example. Let's talk a little bit more about your approach and philosophy when it comes to development, because there's always this tension between whether you densify and build up or whether you do greenfield development and build out. How do you resolve that tension?
It's time that we build upwards with everything that's happening right now. Edmonton has always been built outwards. We're built like that ever since it's existed. We've been building outwards. But it's now, like you said, it's time to build upwards. And because of the services and stuff like that, the transit services that we have problem covering the whole city, police, fire departments, and there's a lot of green space here in Edmonton. In fact, now it's becoming a costly thing that I think they're reducing services and cleaning up that green space. From what I've been reading on signs and stuff like that, and the talking to people on the doorsteps have been telling me that they're worried that that nobody's mowing the lawn over here. What's going on and stuff like that. So I believe it's maybe that green space we can make use of now, and it's time to build upwards, I think.
What about the issue of affordable housing? Because oftentimes for that first-time home buyer, buying a new home in one of the denser communities on a smaller lot with a smaller footprint is the most cost-effective way to enter into the housing market. Are you worried that if that doesn't get developed, that people will just go to the adjacent communities?
No. Can you rephrase that question again? I really didn't understand what you were saying.
Well, you've got lots of competition in the Edmonton capital region. If you can't get the house you want in Edmonton, you can always go to Fort Saskatchewan or St. Albert or Leduc. And so if you don't build out and build those new communities, aren't you worried you're going to lose some of that first-time home buyer?
No, I don't. I think there's a lot. The problem right now, I believe, is there's a lot of land that can be built, but it's being monopolized by developers, from what I can see. And it's a matter of releasing that land. And for example, if I want to go buy land right now in Edmonton North, there's no lands for sale. It's not that there is no land, there's land, but the developers have their hand on it. If you go to ask if can I buy this piece of land? Yeah, in condition that I build the house for you. So we have to revisit our policies and how we're selling these land property, city property and stuff like that, and how they're being developed. Because there is land out there. It's just that it's turned into a big monopoly where developers have full control over that land and they're asking prices. And that's what it comes down to. People are not leaving Edmonton because of there's no land available or no houses. They're leaving because it's cheaper elsewhere, right? And in Sherwood Park. I think I talked to one of the clerks just recently, and she was informing me that she just built a house in Fort Saskatchewan, a 1,400 square house for $340,000, brand new house. You can't find that here in Edmonton. You know what I mean? So I think it comes down to pricing and policies and availability. So.
All right. Thank you for that. Let me ask you about another aspect of affordable housing and the issue of the homeless issues. We've seen plans to end homelessness in 10 years. How do you think they're going?
Not a good job at all. They're doing a horrible job. You know, this is one of the big problems in all cities in the world. But the problem here in Edmonton, we have extreme cold weather. You know, we should be planning now to find out what we're going to do about homelessness and the issue of homelessness. In the last winter that we had, Edmonton put them in places like the convention center. They opened up the stadium. And my understanding, talking to people, the workers that were working there, it was not a very good thing. People that were in there were frustrated. They were banging on walls, breaking things. And the workers were complaining that, you know, this is dangerous. So we have to find a solution to that.
Right.
You know, we have the house, like Edmonton housing. It's the process. There's a lot of houses available. It's the process. How can we fast track that process is one of the problems, and we have to look at. The second.
Right. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
There's resources, and I hear this over the doorstep. What's wrong with the old Remand Center? Why don't they open up that as a shelter? Right. Also, we also have to work with our provincial counterparts very better than what we're doing now. The jail that we built here in Edmonton, the Remand Center, that cost us what, $500 million or $600 million? I can't remember the cost of it. And it's not being fully used. It's time to make use of that. You know, homelessness, there's crime, it's kind of attached together. And one of my personal experiences, I dragged somebody into court before a judge who was homeless and was looking to get into one of the treatment centers. The judge was scratching his head and was saying, "What do I do with you? If I keep you in jail, you're not going to get the help you're supposed to get.
Yeah.
And if I let you out, you're going to hurt yourself and hurt others." Why can't we have empower, some of the correctional officers, put programs while they're in jail, get them, rehabilitated and integrated back into society while they're there? This is how they're in there anyway, right? We can if we establish good programs to help people find housing, treatment centers while they're there, and let their release become, more effective, efficient release where they're back integrated into society, not throw them out the door. And that's a problem in my ward, by the way, because I've been hearing this on the doorstep. I haven't seen it, but crime is one of the biggest issues. And the North Campus Police Station, which is built on North Edmonton, they let them out the door, so they have to walk right through. They're far away from the core city, if you know where the distance is, right? And sometimes when you let them out at 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock at night, there's no buses in this area that takes you down there, and they don't have any money for cabs. So guess what? They're going to find the bike that or some sort of vehicle to steal and find ways to get down to the downtown core. So it's a trickling effect where homelessness leads to crime and other things like that. So
great observations. I have a couple more questions just on issues that have come up in the last year. And then I want to talk to you a bit about how you see your role as an elected council member. So first of all, just interested in how you look at the role of the private sector. Should the city be in the business of operating golf courses, or should they have a public-private partnership to operate those? The garbage collection is already half private. Do you support that kind of approach? Give me your basic take on that.
No. I think, we can work together. I'm not against private sectors, but at the same time, I'd like to keep things public. I don't like, one of the biggest things is job security for me. And, we live in our city here in our country where to have a shelter over your head, you need a mortgage for 30 years.
Yeah.
Well, you better have a job for 30 years. And job security, the public sector offers that. It gives good wages, it gives good pensions and good benefits. And I'd like to see those kinds of jobs in our city, and I'd like to keep them that way.
Okay, I have a fun question as one of my last ones here. The new think tank library downtown, I'm having a look at it right here. So, quick question. Do you love it or do you hate it?
I don't know much of it. Can you enlighten me?
You know what? If you haven't seen it, it's hard to describe. It looks like a tank. It's called the Think Tank Library, and so it's a little controversial. Some people love it inside, and some people don't love it on the outside. So if you don't have a strong opinion, I'm not going to force you to take one.
Well, it's not a strong opinion. I mean, I know what the question is. You're talking about the design of the library. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I haven't seen it. I'll be honest, but I've seen the design of the new police campus, and it's got like a chicken leg at the front, and the roof comes down like this. It's a police station. Can't we stay to the basics? Build something that's secure, that's going to last for a long time, and that people can approachable. That's all we need right now. We don't need this fancy design. And if that library's, if it's costing us, just to make a big design, I don't know.
We should go have a look at it, and I'll ask you again when I talk to you again.
Yeah,
what you think of it.
I will go look at it.
All right, let me just a couple other questions then about the role of an elected council member. So there is going to be a provincial referendum at the same time as the municipal elections. It'll be on equalization. Some cities are having municipal referendum as well. I want to just get your basic take. Do you support giving people the right to vote directly on certain issues, or do you prefer, as the elected council member, that decisions should be made by you?
No, the power goes back to the people, and I hope to God I could set up a system if I do win, where because I'm the type of person, I take everybody's input in and information and how they want me to vote, and at the end of the day, it's I'm working for the people, not for a party or anybody else. And if I can put a system in place where I can do this on a regular basis, the city's going to be voting on this issue, give them some sort of background on the issue, and then leave it to them. How would you like me to vote? And then just take some sort of a consensus for the majority of the vote, and then vote according to the way the people of Ward 2 want me to vote on a particular issue. So yeah, I'm for referendums.
Let me give you then an example, because it'll lead itself into my final question to you. There was a really controversial decision that was made in the last year to approve a solar project from EPCOR in the River Valley. It passed, but barely, 7-6. If you'd been on council, how would you have voted on that one?
I need more information to see.
No problem. Let me then finalize with just this question, because from time to time you'll be faced with an issue where the city administration is proposing something that they believe will be best for the city as a whole, but your constituents will want you to vote the other way. What would you do there?
I'd vote the way my constituents want me to vote.
Why is that important to you?
Because that's why I'm running, is to change the system. I'm for the people. It's not about the money. I retire in about 4 years. It's not about the position or the status. It's about fixing our country and getting you got to understand something. For me, in every decision that I make, I come from the angle that I believe that Edmontonians and Albertans, Canadians in general, are living from paycheck to paycheck. There's financial stress on them. So when it comes to the decision, I would ask, how would this affect Edmontonians? Right? So, and that's why I would go with, and that's every decision. I would go to the people, and I would vote the way the people want me.
All right. Well, thank you so much for the conversation today. I appreciate it.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity. Thank you very much.
You got it. That's Ali Haymour. He is your candidate for Ward 2, Anirniq.